everyone. Welcome to the Backlash podcast. We're on episode 27, the last episode.
No, it's 26.
We just went over this. Episode 26, the last episode of our first year. One day I'm going to get the introduction right. That's why I always volunteer you to do it, because apparently I mess it up every second episode.
So 26, we're in the new place. I just moved. Yeah.
Got some nice sun coming in the windows. No snow yet.
No, thankfully.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
In life?
Yeah.
Not much.
Yeah, same.
Elliot had his first night sleeping without a diaper last night.
How'd that go?
No problems.
No problems.
No problems. That's a big upgrade. Next step, teach him raw deal.
Yeah. Virtual or classic or revolution?
Probably revolution. Definitely Revo to start. It's an easy way to get into the game.
Well, speaking of Revo to start, you're in a Lackey tournament of Revolution.
Yes. It's basically slow to get started as we had the updated Gen Con promos that came out, so everyone had to update their Lackey and then connect with their opponent. I won round 1 versus Mitch, so we'll wait for the rest of the round to complete and then see where it goes from there. Everyone was hoping it would be faster than Classic. So far, that has not proven to be true. But it's fun times. I love Lackey. I woke up one day, Claire woke up at 5 a.m. and Steph's like, here you go, have a baby. I'm sleeping in. And I was like, great, what do I do at 5 a.m.? And hopped on Lackey and played a game versus someone in Singapore. It was 5 p.m.
Was it the Roddy SG matchup?
No, it was someone else and I can't recall their name and I apologize. But he was playing Paul Heyman. I was playing Team Hell No. It was a classic matchup. My opening hand, of about 10 or 11 cards, I got Sidewalk Slam and Leg Drag, so I knew it was well off for a few turns. The game ended when he played Turn the Tide Protected by Mean Gene into kitchen sink with a table and something else with a reversal. I think it was Take Your Own Medicine. All three that were restricted, but I managed to restricted the kitchen sink to play a regular reversal, and then I had something for the table, which can't be. I think that's table. The one that can't be reversed by Sidewalk Slam, Revo, or Elbow to the Face.
I'm not sure.
We're going to be going over it today. Yeah, it's table. So that one's tricky to reverse because you think Sidewalk Slam Rebels, that's what you have on hand, but that can't be stopped by them. And it's only 6 damage, so it can't be elbowed either via its text. So it's a good card, but I was able to squeak it out and got the count out win. That's good enough for me. I had Stratosphere in play, so I would have pitched one and pinned him on the next turn. So.
And then you have here that you played a game against the Raw Deal SG.
Yes, that was a good game. Played against Keith, and thanks for putting a post on your social media. I played Triple H, he played RVD, gave me some tips and tricks for my deck, which I won't change because it's now my tournament deck. But going forward, again, Triple H is someone I'd never built.
This is Revolution, right?
Yeah. So I was like, I'll put in these cards and do this thing. The main strategy is there's an 0 for 4 Antic Hybrid that you can discard it and they discard a random Backlash deck card. So I like to do that on the first turn because in Revolution most people play 6 pre-match because that's the most you can play. A lot of them play for free of the virtual ones, so usually you can snag a mid-match one. In our game I didn't get a good one, so it didn't end up making a difference at all, but it was go for it. After turn 1, throwing Antics is a little risky, so it's not a reliable strategy, but it's something that I like to do on the first turn if I can do it. And yeah, I ended up beating his RVD. We red-walled each other pretty good. I think I was throwing European uppercuts, he was throwing the double leg locks that you pick up from ringside, and we stopped each other probably 8 turns in a row with mean reversals, and No Mercy was blank, so there wasn't any damage being done to either player. So it took a while to get a move through, but eventually I got the Euro cut through, and then we played another one. He was out of cards by then. So. Yeah.
How are your experiences with the new reversals that play from the inside, the colossal reversals?
In our game with Keith, it didn't come up once. I played one Colossal when we were both at the same Fortitude, so he wouldn't have the ability to play from ringside. In Mitch's game, it came up a little bit more. He was playing Colossal Batista, so his deck was built around that. It's tricky when you get ahead in Fortitude with a Colossal. Basically, you get one free Colossal now. That's how it works out, because once it's successful, you're taking anywhere from like 12 to 18 damage, and you're likely to spin one of those reversals. You're likely to be lower if they played a successful Colossal, so now those are in ringside. So really the game comes down to, you get one free Colossal, then you gotta switch it back to cores and means, or have a way to force through a Colossal while not dying yourself, right? So it's tricky.
And it hits trademarks too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'd like to see them be unique, because they brought out a virtual one, losing the crowd's favor or something, that pretty well has the same abilities as the 042 Masochist at Heart, and I won't be beat tonight. So to have 3, they're all different, make them unique to be played from ringside, or leave the non-uniques as overturn or whatever they do already. So that's my solution, but again, I've only played one game where it's affected them, so we'll see going forward.
Well, this Lackey tournament will be a good kind of test, like field test for everything.
Exactly.
We just played a game before recording here. It was a playtest game. I played my usual AJ Styles deck.
Yes.
It was a close back and forth, and I hope the superstar you are playing gets changed a little
I was
bit.
playing Alexa Bliss. Much like you've stated in the past, like the ability is not all of what she does, right? Like we've seen that, same with Asuka. We've seen her face card, and clearly there's more to her, right? So
Well, her pre-match card has been revealed. The 5 Feet of Fury.
Alexa's?
Yes.
Okay.
We
so
revealed
anyways,
this 2 episodes ago.
You can her backstage area and pre-match cards build on her ability. So if you're a fan and you see that ability and you're like, there's not much to it, she definitely gets support in other ways that make her quite potent.
She's going to be pretty nasty. What else has been around the web? There's big news. Wizkids got the WWE license. So there's going to be Dice Masters, Heroclix, and miniature-based board games coming. What are your thoughts on it? Because I have more thoughts than you have thoughts.
Yeah, maybe we'll just transition to get you to talk about it. I'm interested to see where it is. I've never been a big fan of Dice, as you know, but I might try the Dice Masters. Heroclix I couldn't ever really get into. I thought there was too many terms that started with I that I would get confused. Invulnerability, invincibility, invisibility, impaired, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on, right?
Well, with it, they've revamped all the rules and wording to make it more user friendly, new player friendly. So they've shortened terminology, like what Virtual's been trying to do. Yeah. They did that with Heroclix about a year ago. Okay. So that's changed. I'm more excited to see. I think Dice Masters will translate better than the Heroclix will, because Dice Masters, you have your character and you have various abilities that associate with it. Where wrestling miniatures, everyone's pretty much run attack, like high risks, like close range attacks. So I think you're going to be limited on that. However, if they go with, say, the the mobile game, WWE Immortals, where it's kind of like Mortal Kombat with it, I think if they go that route with like an Undertaker that can shoot lightning bolts.
Kind of like that old WWF arcade game. Where Doink would pull out the big hand and shock.
I think that would be a lot better. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to pump out a lot of same stuff.
I could see that. I mean,
John Cena will have stealth everywhere, which is funny. You can't see him.
But WWE's like teamed up with Ninja Turtles and come out with like the wrestling Ninja Turtles and things like that. So you may see stuff like that.
Well, it's funny because Ninja Turtles is also in Heroclix and Dice Masters, and everything's going to be interminglable. So you're going to have Superman and John Cena on it.
I said I would play Heroclix if Ghostbusters ever came out, but it's never happened.
Not yet.
I've never played Heroclix. So.
And then on that, towards the end of the show, we'll have an interview with Dial H for Heroclix. It's a Heroclix podcast, so we'll get their thoughts on what WWE is going to do and everything like that.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh, they can bring back Raw Julia." It's not quite there, but I mean, you never know what they might come out with. So
It's nice to have an active, or there will be an active WWE property
yeah.
game that's like constantly released. Like it's not cards, but it's that blind booster. I was talking about it with Dragon Ball last episode, where it's like it's fresh, new. Like we get those spoiler waves. And not to take away what Virtual's able to do with spoilers, but I mean this. I think you're going to cover a larger group of players, and you're going to be able to go into your local shop and see new players coming into the game a little easier than what Raw Deal's able to do for people.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Wizkids.
Yeah. We've had quite a few new people join on Discord as well.
Yeah.
That I've noticed, which is nice. It's cool to see an influx of people and just see the community continue to grow, even though it's been out of production longer than I was in production. But
yeah,
for the love of the game, we keep it going. So.
That's a good card too.
Yeah, it is. I haven't seen it played in a while.
No. I've ran into New Nexus a lot, because then I could just get Management Interferes turn one.
Yeah.
But I don't want to talk about New Nexus anymore.
Things go in waves. They come and go, right? It's like a pendulum. You see a lot of cards and then they disappear for a while. And...
Like the old Switcheroo.
Yeah.
Like I played that at our last event, and like some people didn't see it coming. It is an awesome way to like neuter a backed by GM Vicky Guerrero deck.
Yeah.
You just switcheroo it and they're like, I can't do anything now.
Another card that kind of lost favor when Virtual came out, but I've seen it have a comeback, is at Showtime. And that kind of goes with your Throwback Thursday you posted last week about Hold On, It's Not Time to Show. Because when that card was released, that kind of took away from Showtime. And then you had Shenanigans that would kind of replace Showtime without them revealing your hand and overturn two, so people had a favor in that, but then people stopped packing to non-specific backstage, and it's kind of an up and down thing. So Showtime's seen a little bit of a comeback.
And there's the what is it? Distractingly Divalicious.
Yes.
With
you did
it. Yeah, no escape.
Making your escape. Yeah. So if you play Making Your Escape and Distractingly Divalicious, you can make it so that your opponent can't play anything on his turn. And then on your turn, you remove Distractingly Divalicious via the text on Making Your Escape. Can't be responded to. You can play cards on your first turn. So it's a neat little trick. You can only do it if it's male versus male. But again, it's an alternative to Showtime, alternative to Shenanigans, and it's neat. Most people pack Making Your Escape anyways, so good little combo.
Also, something came up, I don't have it in the notes here, but there was a user posting what is a good superstar or deck for a new player to start with and then let's think Virtual. So like what has a simple ability or kind of support cards, and what I said immediately was AJ Styles. I'm thinking of it because I just played him. Because his ability is if your maneuver is unsuccessful, you search for another one that doesn't have the same title. So for a new player, you're always having accessibility to maneuvers, so you're not drawing into nothing. And his support cards, his specifics, his pre-match and his backstage area, they're simple. They don't have like all these effects. They just have some ace effects.
I like anyone that has a search ability, so that you're constantly being able to do something while you're just starting out. Because I know people like to start with a Backlash deck, so Backlash can really help you search for maneuvers and recover stuff and be reversals as well. But if you're not playing with that, having something that you can search so that you're not just draw go for a few turns. Like Batista are great, Taz is great. I don't recommend you and your buddy starting with Batista and Taz. Batista might have the slight advantage, but
Lita's a great choice. She has a great card pool.
Yep. Anyone that can search.
Even guys that can reduce fortitude on maneuvers. So if you're drawing into the higher printed fortitude cost, you're able to play them anyways. Like RVD comes to mind. Alexa Bliss, who will be coming out. She's like a fan favorite, favorite superstar. But like just like kind of we did when we got into the game, you play a superstar you like. Yeah.
And just play a bunch of games with it. Get a feel for what works, what doesn't work. Make a few adjustments after every game. It was like when we were getting back into Rebel a few months ago. play a game, be like, all right, I haven't used these cards ever. I'll cut them, put them in something else, and find the right balance between maneuvers and actions and reversals. And it's tough because like you want a template, but there isn't really a template because every superstar ability affects what you would pack, right? Like for the majority, a deck probably has 30 to 35 reversals, but different decks may run 0 to 15 actions or 5 maneuvers to 25 maneuvers, right? It all depends on the deck. So yeah, fortunately no template, but there's ballpark numbers and figures.
And then going on with the new player aspect of Raw Deal, let's get into, I think, our last part of our getting into virtual series and its maneuvers. So we have already gone over maneuvers that can be packed in the Backlash deck. So go back to that one and just see what we highlight. Where Dirty Low Blow, Throwback, Flawless Transition, and a few other maneuvers. But Scott, open up with the Arsenal-based maneuvers. What's your favorite one? You've got a
my favorite to start was Whirlwind Kick. I'll hold it up, but you'll put a nice big image.
Oh yeah, be a bigger one.
I initially liked it because it was 5D. You can search for this if it was non-unique. So if you're playing Turn the Tide or Turn Up the Heat into it, it's a multi, so they need 2 cards that can stop irreversible. So that's what I really liked about it, was that it was a multi. Put up to 2 cards from Rinks Up on the bottom of your arsenal when it's successful, and it has some Revolution text, which we never run into, but just the fact that it's a 0 for 5 multi, that can probably go in any deck that's not a female. That's what I liked most about it to start. Since then, I've switched. My favorite maneuver is the spinning wrist lock, hammer lock, takedown armbar of doom. It's a 12 for 8 multi-submission. When you have a chain in your ring, it's a chain. When you have a heat in your ring, it's a heat. When you have a bash in your ring, it's a bash. And you can shuffle up to 4 cards with any of those traits or that are multi or unique from your ring side of your arsenal. So it's a maneuver, but it also has built-in recovery. So.
And that with the Turn the Tide's good because
it's a multi.
Back to the Whirlwind Kick, with it being kind of a Revolution subtype that you can pack in Classic. It works great with cards that work with different maneuver types. Simply the Best, Beg for Mercy. I don't know if Beg for Mercy tags it.
Yeah, 4 different types of maneuvers and 40 or greater.
Oh, 40 or greater.
Yeah, that's a good point. Simply the Best. I've run that in a few decks recently because it's so good. And you have a Whirlwind Kick, it's 2 types right off the start. There are 2 accompanying maneuvers that are submission, hold, and throw, grapple. I just printed the grapple one. I'd never printed it before, so I've never played it before. I just printed it out for Luke Harper, Luke Harper deck, because it has power in it, I believe.
The submission's a 10 for 10, the grapple's a 20 for 20.
Yeah, and the 10 for 10 I used in Fandango because it has leg or knee. I forget. I can't remember.
They're not very memorable.
I didn't print them because they have their niche. I find that a lot of the maneuvers have their niche that go into certain decks, especially with the classic maneuvers. There's a classic DDT. There's a classic Power Slam. There's a classic Bulldog. Yeah, like every
armbar.
Arm. And every ability that reflects a certain maneuver with a name in it, there's probably a classic maneuver for it, and they probably get a perk for it. Like I know Tori Wilson and Jake the Snake get a perk on the classic DDT that it's considered unique instead of non-unique.
Trish Stratus is listed on Bulldogs. Chris Jericho is listed on the classic armbar. And all these classic maneuvers, even though they're unique, they have a text that they can be reverses if they were non-unique. However, these superstars listed on it, usually the perk is unless you're this character, they can be reversed as if they're non-unique. So now these superstars get unique maneuvers.
And it's something to remember that they can be reversed as if they were non-unique, but they are still unique. So you can reverse them as either or if they don't have the bonus text on it. So get the F out, tag them all. Like I'm thinking that volley beyond the edge. If you have a volley in your ring area, it can tag them all. It tags non-unique maneuvers. So
also with classic competitors, a backstage area card. that could only be packed by Legends or WWF, the classic WWF logo. Superstars packing that card and classic maneuvers, get them all, ignore that can be reverses if they're non-unique text. So now everything's unique for these guys.
They were, like the Saturday Night Main Event era was before my time, so
Yeah.
I've never really looked into any of them. I've never
really.
played any of them. Kaminari is big on, like, I think he's played all of them. Brutus, Yokozuna.
Bam Bam Bigelow I ran into.
Yeah.
I played against an IRS online. He's really nasty, so I was thinking of printing him off.
Yeah.
But it's just, I'm not invested in those characters,
Yeah.
and that's a big portion of why I come to this game, is to play the superstars that I enjoy on television.
Exactly.
So I
And that's
to
why I
reflect.
built Luke Harper recently, because I'm a huge Luke Harper fan. He was on the ENC podcast. I was like, oh, he sounds like a great guy.
He's hilarious. And funny bit of trivia, the listeners might not know, but Mark House was involved in training him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because they're all from Rochester area.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
And Hellcat, remember Hellcat?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was on that YouTube little documentary for Luke Harper they did, where he revisits where he began training wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good video. They did it for a few superstars. Ruby Riott, Seth Rollins. It's a behind the scenes look at like where they came from. Highly recommend it.
Our Iowa listeners will enjoy the Seth
Yes,
Rollins
yes. But my maneuvers, I think one of my favorite Arsenal-based virtual maneuver is Blindside Takedown. I love Blindside maneuvers because, especially with the promo mechanic, that means you have a maneuver you could play from hand if you have it there, but you could also play it from ringside. However, this one, with it being cheater, when it's in your ringside, your non-chain cheater cards, so that's everything, are -3 fortitude, and he cannot move this card from ringside. That's great. In AJ, I use thrust kicks. They're a volley cheater maneuver that's 7 for 8. They become a 4 for 8 that can play off of the quick snap body slams and Japanese arm drags that he gets high risk. In Stone Cold, or the Rattlesnake, he's got a cheater action, the Condemn, that he can search for now.
Anyone that has a cheater action that costs fortitude, that's great. It's great with blatant chokehold. And after you hit the quick snap, it's -3, so you can play that. Essentially turn one.
I didn't think of that in him either.
I ran it in Fandango. I know you run it in AJ, but yeah, it's pretty well the same. Like, play those reduced cheater cards, and with Fandango, you got, if your maneuver is not successful, you put under managed by Samurai, and you can play one card a turn under it. So you can just like play it till it hits. Like, almost second turn.
Thrust knee lift is really good.
Yeah.
Because throwing constant multis.
It's
very
damned if you do, damned if you don't too, right? If they reverse it, it goes to your ringside, then you can put it on the bottom and they have to randomly remove too. So.
And also, another bonus of this card is whenever you search your arsenal, you can search for this card and put it in your ringside bottom.
So you can pack it in the Back to Basics deck. Big beefy multi-move that Back to Basics lacks
I didn't think
for the
of
most
that.
part. When you search for your cards, you slide it in your ringside pile because your opponent only gets to search your arsenal and Backlash deck. So if you can somehow play Philly first, you can get 3 foreign objects in your Back to Basics deck as well, which you can do with Hometown Hero now.
What was the maneuver you listed that was cheater after blatant?
I don't think I said one after that.
Oh.
I know I wanted to do it with Vice Lock, but Vice Locks are chains, so it
chain.
doesn't affect chains.
What non-maneuver cheater cards benefit from this?
I was thinking of that. There's By Any Means Necessary. It's a 9 fortitude. The reversal, the mid-match, it's a blue-red card. It's like reverse any fan favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And it's 3 fortitude, both that and the ringside.
Yeah.
It's -3, so that... what fan favorite cards are there? To me, Crowd Roars comes to mind. That's about it. So there's a few volley maneuvers, but like that see regular play. I think the biggest fan favorite card is It's Great to Be Back Here, which is a reversal, so you can't reverse it.
Yeah. Before we get to those foreign object ones, a big standout of the classic maneuvers is Classic Claw. Because I find a lot of these classic maneuvers, they're not packed outside of that classic competitor theme. I didn't pull it aside.
Yeah, neither did I. So Classic Claw I didn't pull aside because it's in one of my decks.
But you want to refresh them on what the old claw does.
The old Claw, oh jeez.
The 14.
I don't remember.
So it's 14 for 5. Cannot be reversed from your opponent's hand. You search his art. You look at the top 5. Remove a card. Man,
No,
that's so bad at this game.
I'm pretty sure you search the whole arsenal, remove a card, and then 5 damage.
Yeah, because people would maintain it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Anyway.
Always prepared.
Yeah.
Cannot be reversed from your opponent's hand. Search your opponent's arsenal for any one card to put into his ringside, and then shuffle his arsenal. So you shuffle your opponent's arsenal,
Yeah.
and then you opt for him to cut it.
And then Classic Claw is a 14.
Classic Claws is way better. So it's a 14 for 6. Can be reversed if it was non-unique. Cannot be reversed from hand, backlash, or ringside. After damage is applied by this card, choose one of your opponent's cards overturned by this card and remove it from the game.
Mm-hmm. So it's harder to reverse, technically, but almost easier to reverse because it can be reversed if it's non-unique. So it's great to be back here. It's it.
Don't be a douchebag, Heroclix
says. All those cards that people run, almost all available copies in all of their decks.
But I mean, at most you're going to encounter 3 of them in a deck. I find it's usually 2. Like, don't be a douchebag, and Carlito says.
Yeah.
So from Backlash deck, they're not touching it because there's nothing there. Ringside isn't touching it.
Yeah, no headstones.
And honestly, if you're at 14 Fortitude and you haven't seen those 2 reversals yet, if you're building like chain and everything,
you're probably not.
Probably not. And you're gonna hope that they overturn it.
Yeah, and then you can.
I don't think you can remove it from the. No, the douchebag you don't remove from the game.
It goes to ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you remove the Carlito, and then. This is a perfect maintain hold.
It's a good
maneuver.
Card. Yeah. The problem is late game they have lots of reversals usually in their arsenal. So you'll look at the top. Well, after damage is applied, I find that I've only had 1 or 2 damage happen. Right, it's 6 damage. So they overturn elbow or revo, and you're like 1 card.
Well, I mean, but if they overturn like a very sloppy, or a manager, those are great cards to remove.
Yeah.
Or if they overturn a divine intervention, big deal.
Yeah.
You just got 6 fortitude, so this will bridge you to 20. I think you can start chucking those dynamic finishers and old school pile drivers.
Which is on the list, old school pile driver.
And I just like before, I brought it up.
Great for back to basics decks because it is old school. The text says that it can be packed as if it's superstar specific. It's 25 for 10.
Yeah, so you can't do it after Classic Claw. When you're Jerry Lawler, it's -5 plus 10 in multi. Your opponent must discard 2 cards, but it's another example of a non-specific trademark finisher. There's a whole bunch of these in the game.
Back to basics.
Superstar specific. What's a trademark finisher to begin with?
Yeah. Isn't it superstar specific?
Oh, it is when you're back to basics.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a trademark finisher any deck could run.
Yes.
Like before we had the finisher, dynamic finisher.
Yeah.
Since then, they've introduced a concerto that can be packed by a whole whack load of guys. The old school pile driver. I feel like there's another one. What a maneuver. And see how it feels in the mid-match as a trademark finisher action hybrid multi. So you can have a deck that only has 1 trademark. Well, now you could give them an additional 6 trademark finishers.
Yeah.
And they're difficult to reverse. Like, I love non-multi trademark finishers.
Yes, yeah.
Because it doesn't...
Because once they're multi, they can be hit back at the F out. That's a multi-reverse.
Well, F out hits it if it's non-specific.
Yeah.
But once is enough, can't touch it.
Yeah.
And our meta right now is pretty face-heavy.
Yeah.
Other than that, you want to talk about...
There's table, ladder, chair. I couldn't find my table. There's trash can separate. I don't know where my table is.
Okay, let's talk about trash can and then we'll visit these ones here. I'll talk about this, then you can go about that. So trash can is a foreign object strike. It is, I think, a premier maneuver, the very first set before, where you have it in play, you can activate it to hit it.
Yeah.
And then your opponent can activate it on his turn to hit you with it.
Kind of gimmicky, but it was fun.
But this one is it's a different flavor on the gimmick. So when it's successfully played, you can choose to reduce the damage to 0. If you do, it's considered to be resolved. So you can't overturn reversals. There's no stopping it. And you cannot play reversals to it. So no sustained damage, nothing. No took it on the chin.
Yeah.
No oversell, that's a big one. No lay.
Yeah.
And when your next card played this turn is a strike, you cannot play reversals to it.
Yeah.
So it's really good because then you can't restricted use.
Yeah. You get 2 in a row, basically.
Yeah.
Really good if you can successfully play a strike. And I found like that was the issue when I was playing in the Lackey game was that he was just throwing strike foreign objects. So I had Revos and Sloppies and Sidebox Lands and leg drags, and I didn't really have an issue with reversing the plain vanilla foreign objects. It's when you turn the tide that I was like, oh crap, what do I have left that can go around these maneuvers?
But with this, I mean, if you could put a reversal restriction around the trash can, you could hit something pretty nasty because you're bridging to 20 fortitude with this if you play it.
Yeah.
And then
the next strike after that, you can't play reversals too. So. It's good in first blood matches because you get 2 foreign objects instead of 1.
Oh, get it busted wide open out afterwards.
Yeah.
That's game.
Touch turnbuckle 3. Oh!
Whoa!
Coming up with the tech over here.
But I mean, this next set of maneuvers are also strikes.
Yeah. Yeah, the table, ladder, and chair.
Oh, you need table. Why did I look up chair?
Probably because that's a different image than you're used to. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, they're just 3 unique foreign objects. Table is the only one with the reversal restriction. Otherwise, chair is just a unique 10 for 10. Ladder is a unique 12 for 8. Table cannot be reversed by elbow to face, revolution of the mind, or sidebox slam, which we've already mentioned. And then when I have a hard time wrapping my head around their added effects. But when you successfully play, and each maneuver has a different type, or are they all the same? A grapple or a high risk or a trademark, without maintaining the text. You may choose this card until the maneuver finishes resolving. And then you ace it. When it's chosen, you put this card to your ringside, and your successfully played maneuver is plus a certain amount of damage and stun value. It's different for each of the 3.
So your move doesn't need to be successfully played when you're choosing it.
Okay.
So for the sake of wrestling, let's pick table. So I have a table successfully in play. It's already there. So I go to play any grapple, high risk, or trademark finisher for classic. So
Dynamic finisher.
Name a dynamic finisher. So I play a dynamic finisher, and then I choose table. Okay. So if the dynamic finisher is reversed, nothing else happens. If the dynamic finisher is successful, I put the table into my ringside pile, and now dynamic finisher is plus 8 damage, plus 1 stun.
Which they can't reverse that ace.
They can.
They can?
Yes.
So then your dynamic finisher would do nothing?
It still needs to resolve the damage.
Right. Okay.
Because the card effect's still going, you can't...
Yeah, you can't end the turn without resolving the card that has been successful.
Unless, it's that Booker T card that was ruled that if you overturn Let's Wrestle already. No, remember the how many do you need? Or how many times? Where they ruled if Let's Wrestle already overturns on the text, it doesn't do the rest of the text.
Yes, that's the thing. That's the thing with every text. As soon as they overturn, same with Here Comes the Cavalry. If you play it against a tag team, you have to overturn 2. If they overturn Douchebag or Carlito, you don't get to do Shuffle 8, Draw 2.
But then you resolve your damage on this still.
Yes. On what? The trademark?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So that's good for new players, because even experienced players are like, WTF?
But it's fun. It's better than the actions in the ladder and the table actions. It's more thematic.
Yeah.
You can search for these off of the TLC match stipulation that Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys, and the Dudley Boys get. The Dudley family has text that kind of sneaks us into play. Excuse me. They're fun maneuvers.
Mhm.
It's just try to play strikes.
Putting them in the
difficult.
right deck, yeah. The strike and the foreign object. But as I said, like the move from Sidewalk Slam is kind of shifting away as people pack unintended consequences and backhand slap because they're uniques and one of them's a D0. So we may see Sidewalk Slams packed a little less, which makes these a little easier to reverse.
These with like a kitchen sink.
Yeah.
I mean, they are unique maneuvers, so things that tag non-unique maneuvers are no good to this. Yeah, so there's some maneuvers. Do you have any closing thoughts on for new players getting into virtual? Kind of visited it at the beginning.
What I would do is pick your favorite superstar and just print out that set of cards. That's 10 to 15 cards and build them with the classic cards. And just start with that, right? To get to know new cards. I would look at a few of the staples that we mentioned in each of the segments. Carlito, Douchebag. But just pick one superstar. That's what I found overwhelming was trying to learn. They brought out like over 100 superstars with 10 to 20 cards each. Like, that's a lot of new cards to learn, right? Like over 1,000 cards. That definitely takes time to learn and looks overwhelming. So pick a superstar you like, start with that, slowly introduce a few of the key virtual cards, and I wouldn't print out too many superstar specifics to start out.
We made that mistake when we first started.
Right, a lot of people did. They're like, I'll print out 25 superstars, and then you build one, and then you want to modify it, and then you want to play it in a tournament, so you keep a deck together for 3, 4, 5 months. Like, that takes a while to go through those 25 superstars, and then newer guys come out every year, and you're like, oh, I want to build a more current guy than build legacy, right? So, yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, I agree. And most of your deck isn't going to be virtual. The majority of your deck is going to be the old classic raw deal cards. We brought it up with the reversals, like the pre-match and mid-match, where you'll have select cards, maybe 3 pre-match cards. Your reversals are only going to maybe be 5, 6 total. Maneuvers, mostly classic. Everyone complains about reversal restrictions, but they're coming from shoot, lock up, German suplex, bootlace, shake, poke. Like, these were cards that already existed, and they're more of a problem, more of complaints about it now than I heard when the game was being actively produced. But yeah, just pick your favorite superstar. If they're a little complicated and you can't wrap your head around it, pick your second favorite superstar. You can go to teamcanadaonline.net. That's where all the virtual is. You can go to, there's a superstar strategy guide. You can go to the index and it lists every character made in Raw Deal and all the cards. If you're more of a visual person, go to the SoCal Raw Deal Facebook page, and it has all the virtual cards. They have folders by superstar, and there are folders for superstar specific, so for existing superstars in Raw Deal.
Yeah, and if you want a really easy way to get into Raw Deal, look at Revolution. Like, it's very simple. I've taught many people how to play Revolution in 20 minutes and play the game. Raw Deal SG has all the cards there to look at. Keith does superstar strategy guides for he's just started doing one a week or something, one every 2 weeks, which is great because, again, I was getting into Revel and I'm like, I have no idea where to start with these guys, so that's a neat feature. They've done that a little bit on TCO, where they post like, what have you done with this superstar, or but we haven't really had a full on like, here's what you should do with this superstar.
And with Raw Deal being kind of harder to access now, with Raw Deal SG Facebook page, he has made, I think, every card available to print with alternate arts, so it's kind of more updated artwork, and you can cherry pick what you want to do. You can use Photoshop or Microsoft Word, just kind of paste those cards onto there and print them off as you need to. There's also the Discord page. Just look up TCAN Online Discord page. We'll also have the link in the show notes.
And everyone's really friendly and helpful there.
Yeah.
And walk you through everything.
Yeah, and that's what there've been, like you said earlier, there's been a surge of new players coming in, whether revisiting the game or it's like, hey, I've seen this game and I want to start playing. Where do I go?
Yeah. Do we have a contest?
We have a contest. Let's close the show with that.
Okay.
I want to cut to the interview with Dial H for Heroclix, so we'll go there now. Hey guys, I am here with Kris from Dial H for Heroclix. How you doing, Kris?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you very much. This is big news. We were just talking about it beforehand with Wizkids getting the WWE license. And I figure, hey, you're the Heroclix podcast I listen to when I regularly played. Let's bring you on and give our listenership who play a card game kind of an insight onto what the miniatures game can do for the WWE. So you want to give everyone kind of a brief overview of what Heroclix is?
Sure. So Heroclix is a game that's been around for about 15 years now. It's a tabletop miniatures game, and what it has going for it that basically, I think it's a patented technology, if that's what you want to call it, but imagine little versions of like your favorite superheroes, villains on like a chessboard, and then they have attached to their base is a small little dial. That's the clicks part of Heroclix. They have a window that you look through. It shows your powers and abilities, and then as the characters take damage, you click the dial, physically click it, and then at the end they have like some KO clicks. Once you hit that, then they get taken off the board, but you move it around. I got one right here so you can kind of see the window. This is a larger figure. They're normally a lot smaller than this, but there are bigger ones as well. But you just click the damage down the dial. There's a bunch of different formats, but basically the game is you start off on either side of the board, just like in chess. You move your pieces towards each other. You attack using 2d6 dice to attack, and if you hit, you do damage, whatever. But there's a bunch of different formats, kind of like a lot of stuff people have made up as like maybe capture the flag or boss battles or battle royales or all kinds of stuff. But that's generally what it is.
And a lot of different abilities are for like ranged attacks, like laser beams, fireballs, and there's a lot for close combat, like running at the other character, doing a large area of effect attack, or increasing your close combat damage as well with the power ability card, so everything's color coordinated.
Yeah, so there are 4 different values that are going to be showing on your click style. So it's going to be speed, attack, defense, and damage in that order. And then there's going to be associated colored or blank white boxes on those numbers. And that will show you what that character has access to at that time. So generally what I tell like new players is pick a character that you're familiar with. Like we'll take Spider-Man, for example. Everybody kind of knows what Spider-Man does. You know what I mean? Like he can jump really high, swings webs, he can shoot webs, and he's got a spider sense. So what Wizkids, the company that makes Heroclix, has done has associated these little colored boxes with things that translate to those powers and then slap those on the dial of that Spider-Man. So it's very common for a Spider-Man to have a power called Super Senses, which is just a little power in the game that allows him to like dodge attacks and things like that. Things that would make sense for Spider-Man to have. Another example would be like Wolverine always has the power called Blades, Claws, and Fangs. So that should be theoretically showing on his dial at pretty much any point in his dial. Stats change. You generally get worse as they take damage. And if you knock out your opponent, you generally score points.
And then with superheroes, it's pretty easy to translate it. But what does this mean for WWE coming into this game? How do you see this translating over?
So this is such huge news in the game of Heroclix. Like we are used to seeing mostly superheroes, supervillains translated, because it translates so easily with all of these powers, like super senses, for example. When you're talking about bringing in this new property, and WizKids has brought in a lot of different properties over the years, things like Halo, Gears of War, Bioshock, all of these have been made into Heroclix at some point. And a lot of it pretty easy to come up with how it would translate into these powers. Now, when you're talking about bringing in professional wrestlers, WWE, a lot of the powers, I think, are going to end up looking very similar across a lot of the different Heroclix. But I think that personally they're going to get a little bit crazy with it. And there's things in the game called special powers, and that's that colorless little white box that exists on a lot of these Heroclix nowadays. What I think is that they'll translate a lot of like your professional, like their special moves, into doing mechanics that already exist in the game. So we know for a fact now, because they've actually announced it, that we're going to get like an Undertaker Heroclix. So I expect to see something along the lines of like choke slam and how that will translate into the game. I'm not really sure, but I guarantee you it'll be something just a slight bit different than a regular, just basic vanilla attack that just does damage. So I think that that's probably what they'll do, is they'll take every professional wrestler's special move and come up with some zany way to implement it in the game that adds like a few different powers and that correlate together, or just weird stuff like that. That's my guess.
So it'd be similar to those action figures where it's like clotheslining action, and that's kind of the one move that action figure can do.
Yeah, I mean, it could be very much that. In regular Heroclix, they've done all kinds of things over the years as far as differentiating between whether a character is like a jack of all trades, or if a character has one very specific purpose. So you might have a character like, I don't know, like Rey Mysterio, for example. They may translate Rey Mysterio into this game into being a very dodgy character, and hard to get a hold of. And since he's generally a smaller guy compared to a lot of your professional wrestlers, he might translate to having like a higher defense value since he's harder to hit or something like that. So I think that they'll probably take what the individual wrestlers' main attributes are, and then just blow it out of proportion to really accentuate all of like what that individual Heroclix can be, instead of just making like 25 Heroclix that all have the same stats and the same powers and stuff like that.
And how do you think they're going to approach it with the product? Or like some boosters, you can get 5 miniatures per pack. Some boosters are 1 miniature per random pack. I know with Ninja Turtles, they've done the 1 miniature per pack approach. What do you think they're going to do with the WWE?
So that's a fantastic question, because we don't have any idea as of right now. WizKids has not said one way or the other. Anything past, we got the property rights and we're going to start making them. So my guess is they will actually probably do individual foil packs for a while. I just don't see them making an entire full-blown set. If you're not familiar with Heroclix at all, it kind of breaks down, or has historically broken down into this. You have a full set, and that generally is like 70, 90, 120 pieces, and unique pieces that you have the ability to pull. And then there's these things called gravity feeds. Gravity feeds are like 25 characters or whatever. And then you have individual little blind bag pulls, has one character in it. MSRP is generally about $2.99 or so, and that way they can kind of like make smaller sets, and they've done that to test waters in the past. So my guess is that that's probably what they'll start off with, but I highly anticipate, just because it's weird, because I think the Venn diagram of people that are actually big fans of wrestling does overlap very well with the other nerddoms that exist out there.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people that are huge into wrestling may also, and probably are also huge into like superhero flicks. So, and I think that the Venn diagram overlaps a lot there. So I think it's going to sell well, and I think we'll probably start off with a gravity feed, but it could very well transition into full-blown sets after maybe a year or so.
And with you saying that the nerdum kind of overlaps, wrestling is still kind of a taboo subject with some people. What has the reception been with the possibility of the WWE figures being tournament legal with some of the comic book based ones? Because a lot of people in the game I've experienced are purists, where they only want their comic book properties lumped amongst just itself.
So what I really think is they have, and by they I mean Wizkids, they really learned their lesson. They had an example in the past where they created Yu-Gi-Oh! Heroclix.
Mm-hmm.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Heroclix were not tournament legal. They were not considered what is called officially modern. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Clicks didn't really sell that well. You had those fervent Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans out there because, like, people like me, if you're into gaming, I think a lot of people kind of jump from game to game until you find the game that you really love the most. But, like, speaking personally, I used to play pretty, like, competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! I used to play competitive Magic. So there were people out there that the second Yu-Gi-Oh! Clicks were introduced, they're like, I have to buy up all these because I loved Yu-Gi-Oh! And now they're in clicks form. So you're always going to have those guys out there that do that. But generally speaking, there are a lot of those, what you call purists out there. They're only going to buy the stuff that might be tournament, like, worthy. But in order for it to be tournament worthy, it first has to be tournament legal. Wizkids shot themselves in the foot as far as sales because they did not make Yu-Gi-Oh! Clicks modern. And because they didn't, I think they really learned their lesson, and basically everything since then has been modern when they brought it out. So, for example, they made the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was brought on as a property, and that has always been legal for tournaments because they learned their lesson. And then after that, you had and though nothing in the set really came out to be super meta worthy, but the RAP set, so I can't remember what the name of it is off the top of my head. The Undead set, that's what it's called. Those are just kind of generic monsters. You have werewolves and zombies and vampires that were all made into Heroclix, and they made those modern legal so that you could play with them. And people bought them because they thought, hey, this might be a possible modern thing. But then there's a bunch of people out there that were just like, yeah, I just want to run a team full of werewolves because it sounds cool. So I think as far as WWE goes, it's almost a guaranteed thing. You probably take that to the bank that it will be modern legal just because they know that they want to make more money, and making things modern legal makes more money.
Do you think that if we start seeing John Cena and Roman Reigns winning events, you're going to have some Heroclix fans being pretty unhappy about that, just because of how wrestling can be to people who don't enjoy it, where they want nothing to do with it?
I don't think that anyone would be upset about that, just because I think that there's not that many Heroclix players in the world. The last time I heard, and I could be wrong on this, but there's like 20,000 or something in. I'm not really sure. It may be like 20,000 in the world. So generally speaking, and this is one of the reasons why I personally settled down on Heroclix as my game of choice instead of Magic, instead of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because the community itself is so good. I mean, it's a bunch of very nice people that are welcoming to new players that will just give you their collections, like half their collection if they don't want to, because they're like, oh my God, you're a brand new player. You want in? Oh yeah, here, take all this free stuff. Just keep coming back. Keep playing with us. So they're always like so nice. And that's part of what kept me around. So to kind of like go back to answer your question, I don't think anyone really gets that mad in Heroclix, because I think the vast majority of it, and you know, there's a couple of people out there that take the game too seriously, like in every game. But generally speaking, they're just gonna be like, oh, you got into Heroclix because Roman Reigns is winning all the time and you wanted to jump into this game. You're like, no, they're just gonna be super welcoming. So yeah, I just think it's a good community to be in.
Well, that's really good, because I could see with this property, you're going to have a lot of kids, teenagers, and adults getting into Heroclix now that wouldn't even second guessed it beforehand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just recently, within the past like year or two, whatever, we got Star Trek figures for the first time. I've gone to tournaments where people had absolutely no real interest in superheroes, but then they found out that Star Trek figures were made, and then they're like, what is this game? I want to play as Kirk. I want to play as Spock. And then they get into the game and they realize that they're actually compatible with all of these other things. So you can have these weird matchups where you have the Federation fighting the Justice League if you want to. It's weird, but you can make it happen. That being said, absolutely, I think that there's going to be WWE fans that see this and they're going to be like, what is this? You mean I can have Stone Cold Steve Austin 316 fighting like Spider-Man? Like, absolutely. Why not? It's zany, it's weird, but at least if you've ever had one of those conversations with someone's like, who would win in a fight? Trish Stratus or She-Hulk or something like that. That seems a little one-sided. But like you see where I'm going. Like, you can make this happen now. So as far as like introducing things into the game, they do really try, I think to balance stuff the best that they can. So even if you think it's going to be super crazy one-sided, like, well, Superman would always win in a fight against Spider-Man, that may not be true in this game, because it does come down to a lot of there is strategy. So there's like your placement, but then there's also your rolls. I mean, if you are rolling 2d6, if you just keep rolling really, really terribly, it doesn't matter if you have the best piece on the field. So, I mean, you could theoretically come in with the New World Order and just stomp the Justice League, you know? So I'm just really excited because it just opens up this whole other group of people that we might get to interact with, which would add to the community that is Heroclix.
And speaking of with Wizkids and the Heroclix, you and I both have a brief history, not the history together, but we played a little bit of Dice Masters. Personally, I think that the WWE will translate better to Dice Masters because it's more text-based, and you could have like in Heroclix, you can specify like this is the Chokeslam based card, the Tombstone based card. How do you think that's going to go for the Dice Masters?
I think honestly, it's probably going to go about the same. The only thing that we're really limited by here is going to be your own, like the people that make this stuff, their own imaginations. Because I was thinking about this. In Heroclix, they introduced these a long time ago, but they're called objects, and they can be represented by anything. And with them making it into Heroclix, there's no reason we can't get chairs and ladders and all kinds of just dumb stuff like you see in the WWE. People hitting each other with light bulbs, like shop lights and stuff like that. So I think just because I did get to play, I mean, I got into Dice Masters as well. You know, there's like items and stuff in that, like helicarriers and things like that. I think that can translate just as easily into Dice Masters as it can into Heroclix. So it's however crazy they want to go outside the box and make it. The one thing I would say, and if this ever did get back to Wizkids, is just listen to your fan base, because your fan base, even if you guys get stagnant on your ideas, your fan base will always have more ideas for you that you could just take. And a lot of the people, they don't want the recognition for coming up with that idea. That's not what they're out for. They just want to see the game be as good as it can possibly be, whether that's Dice Masters or Heroclix or whatever. So in Dice Masters, I think, because, I mean, you roll and it's luck-based as well. If you keep rolling really badly in Dice Masters, I mean, there's absolutely no reason that you, once again, could not fight the Justice League with the New World Order. So, like, it could be a thing. Just limited by their imagination.
We might see Hulk Hogan giving Superman that kryptonite finger poke of doom soon.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely a possibility. Like, there's no reason. I definitely want to see Ghost Rider fight Kane. Like, that could definitely be a thing. And in this game, this is going to be one of probably your only mediums you will ever see where you will get to, like, kind of reenact that. Because you're never going to see a movie where Kane fights Ghost Rider. You know what I mean? You're probably never going to see a crossover comic of Sting taking his baseball bat to the Punisher. Like, it's not going to fit. It's not going to be a thing. But, like, people that are in the nerdoms that we clearly are in, like, you want to see it. It makes you excited to think about them fighting each other. And this may be the only way to do it. So, like, I would love to see it.
All right, well, let's wrap it up there, Kris. Is there anything you would like to promote?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you guys do get into the game of Heroclix, or you just want to learn more about it, you can follow Dial H for Heroclix. We're on Twitter at Dial H4. That is the number 4 Heroclix. On Facebook, just search Dial H for Heroclix. And then we are on Podbean, iTunes, and pretty much wherever else you can get your podcasts.
All right, great. Thank you very much for your time, Kris.
Yeah, thanks, man. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much for that interview. Scott, before this, you had mentioned that we have a contest.
Yes.
Do you know what it is?
I do not. Tell me all about it.
So it's the Backlash cards that we were talking about.
Yes.
So we want to see your collection of the card titled Backlash.
Oh, yeah. And maybe share your favorite story of playing the card titled Backlash.
Yeah. So we'll have a post on the Facebook page to share everything on there. We're just going to keep it to one thread. Everyone who posts images, you don't have to do a story with it. It could be one card Backlash. It could be 30, 40,
yeah.
300. And then we're going to randomly pick some people. We'll have the details in the text there. And then we're going to send out some professionally printed alternate art Backlash cards to people. And then you had mentioned a contest for collections. An idea.
I did.
This is about a month ago when we were discussing it, where it was a collection of cards. So, because we're spitballing here, because we're so organized, we want to see your tallest collection of raw deal. Because we've had 2 players in our group drop their entire collections. So we want to see how tall you can make your collection without dropping it.
Like Jenga, basically. Yeah, okay.
It doesn't have to be any card, any specific cards. And, we'll pick a random person. No, we'll pick the tallest one and we'll mail you out something too, for fun. The closing date will be, we'll give you a month. So on the first, so 2 weeks from now, October
9th?
No.
7th?
No, after
Second?
that, after the 1 year. So on October 23rd, we'll give them a month.
Yeah, we'll announce the winners on the 23rd show.
We'll announce the winners on the 23rd show, and we'll bring it up again on October 9th, which is our 1 year extravaganza. I'm really excited for who we're going to have on the show.
Yeah,
Plus, we're going to have some fun and shenanigans. Backstage shenanigans.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll show them some backstage scenes of
Backlash
podcast. We'll show them the dog.
Yeah.
Other than that, do you have anything else, Scott?
Not for today. Have a good 2 weeks, everybody. Peace out. Move closer.
Well, we're gonna put the cards in the middle.
Okay.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I know. I was like, let's play fences. Right.
Is it going?
Is it recording?
Oh, right. We got the footsie war on the Backlash podcast. We're on episode 26, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Because 27 is like 1 year, which is like, well, how does that work? 54 days.